Okay. Hello, welcome to the Vox Markets webinar. Today it's Xtract Resources. We've got the whole team here, it feels. I've got one of the team here, Jeremy Reed, here with me in London, which is unusual and quite intimate, really. And then we've got Colin Bird, Alec Kubra, and Quinton Hills as well. How are you today, gents?
I'm very good, thanks. Nice to see you, Jeremy, in London.
Right, we did a webinar, I think, earlier in the summer. I think so far it's had whatever 1,000 views, which for me is surprising, given one wouldn't have thought that many people wanted to listen to Colin, but apparently they do, and they were very interested, and it went down very well. So we thought we'd repeat the same thing again. And I suppose starting off with Colin, where are we with Xtract at the moment? What can you say?
Thank you for that introduction. Of course, I'm elsewhere, and as is we're all in different places. It's good that Jeremy is with you. We're in a good place, and it's probably a very appropriate time, Zach, to update the market. The last time we all got together, we talked about a conceptual pit. Pictures were shown which showed what the outline of the pit might look like. Some number indications were given, and we talked quite a bit about our southeastern anomaly in particular, and what that might be, could be, and of course all the risk what goes with geophysics, what it might not be. So this is a good juncture. It's the end of the year. It's considerable progress since we all sat together, and I'm going to summarize that progress, and let's get into the detail. The progress is that in the northwest, the pit has probably extended its margins. It's beginning to show a sense of maybe thinning and petering out, but very positive, and we're very pleased with that. To the south, the deposit is continuing. We've ridden over the top of what might have been the pit wall, and we're in new territory. We're getting thick stuff, and the old that we've reported shows in actual fact it's virtually starting from surface, the mineralization. We suspect that the ore body is swinging west, and again we'll talk about that. But I guess what really is exciting us all at the moment is the fact that own generated geophysics and the magnetics that we flew with the drone, the science has come out. The science has worked for us, Zach. The science has worked for us. We've had a couple of holes which I guess gave us nice smells, but not much more. Mineralization, yes, lots of specks of alteration. And I must congratulate the team on the analysis, because they were a bit blind. On the one hand, we've got the Anglo results to the north, and we've got our own results, and a big gap in between, which was sort of caused by forestry activity, and they didn't want us doing our geophysics in the forest. So we were shooting a bit blind, but a lot of good thought, a lot of good ingenuity, a lot of previous experience, and high quality work. I'm happy to say that hole number 35, as we've reported today, we've got it, Zach. We've got two significant, we could argue three significant zones of mineralization, the right type, exactly what you would want, and that's me finished, really. Oh, by the way, with the exception that this is probably so big, it's remote, it's a kilometre and a half away, that it deserves its own name, and we're giving it its own name, which is Ascot, and that is to stay consistent with the racecourse. There's an Ascot in Australia, at Perth, I think it is, and there's an Ascot, of course, in England. So racecourse, Ascot, and the new section, shall we call it a section? Deposit is called Ascot, and now straight at that, either straight over to Jeremy or Quinton, whoever wants to take up the baton.
Yeah, look, I'll just add a few comments, Dan, and I'll then hand over to the guys down in Brisbane, Quinton and Alec. The drill program, the phase 2 drill program at Racecourse has been very successful. Most of our drilling is focused on the shallower, open pittable part of the Racecourse resource. And I think what we found in the drilling this year, that the deposit is quite a bit shallower than we thought. I mean, we knew it came to surface, but it was plunging to the northwest and to the southeast. And one of the key results was that that plunge was less than we thought. So more of the mineralization is actually going to be open pittable. From the open pit study that Colin just spoke about, we know we can mine this thing profitably down to about 600 meters depth. So anything less than that is going to be open pittable. So pretty much all of the results that we've announced today will be within open pittable depths. And I think the couple of other key things were, we thought the mineralisation extended to the northwest. We're very confident of that. We've been able to show that. But to the south and to the southeast, it looked like from the previous drilling that there wasn't much there, but we've been able to show through some of the recent drill holes that it does extend to the south. It looks like it's more south rather than southeast, so it's changed orientation a little bit. But we're still getting very good mineralisation to the south beyond where the current model of the open pit is. So we know from the results we've got, the open pit is going to be a lot bigger. And then we did the geophysics that Colin mentioned, and we came up with a large anomaly to the southeast, 1.5 kilometres away from the racecourse resource. And some of the recent holes 33 and hole 35 into that, have got some very good visual intersections, lots of alteration, lots of sulfides, some nice looking chalcopyrite intersections. Obviously we have to send those off to get assayed, but from a visual point of view, it looks like a new system, which is why it's got a new name in Ascot. And this is very common in these types of porphyry systems through the central part of New South Wales, is that they occur in clusters. And it was one of the big questions that we had when we started this project was, we have racecourse, that's a particular porphyry. Are there other porphyries in close relation to racecourse? When we got the geophysics and it looked like, hey, this could be something completely new, separate to the racecourse, it's 1.5 kilometres away, and now we've got some holes into it. It is mineralised. It's another system. It's now got a new name. And so that's a hugely transformative event for the project. We've now proven that we have a cluster of porphyries. They're mineralised. Yes, we have to get their assays back, but it's that geophysics and the geological thought that's gone into this from Quinton and Alec in particular down there in Brisbane with sighting the drill holes has led to a new discovery, and that's an incredibly exciting thing to be a part of. It's not every day you go out and find another porphyry system, particularly in this part of New South Wales, where it's relatively well known. So to find something new is incredibly exciting. We'll have to wait and get assays back, so we're all waiting to see what that's going to be. But yeah, as Colin says, it's a transformative event for the project, and we look forward to putting some more holes into it. So with that, perhaps hand over to you, Quinton and Alec, and show us some of the data if you can.
Yep. Okay. I think we might start with looking at the extension of the racecourse hole first, hole 36, that is being completed. It's in the very southeastern part of the resource. It's the most furthest hole we've drilled into the actual racecourse mineralisation zone itself. Alec, can we get the host? Yep. Okay, great. Press that. Yep. Can you share your screen now? Can you allow him to share the screen, Zach, please?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I think while the guys are getting this up, perhaps just mention that this is a drill program that's been going 2 drill rigs now for a number of months through the middle of a global pandemic in parts of New South Wales that have been shut down, and the fact that we've been able to just do this drill program at all in a continual basis, which obviously is going to lead to ongoing news flow for the company over a long period of time, has just been, it's been a huge effort for the guys on the ground to be able to do this, and we've been lucky that we've been able to have a continual drill program, delivering really good results over a long period of time. And there's a lot more still to come out in terms of assays, and so into the new year there'll still be a lot of news that'll be coming out from the project.
Okay, so what you can see here in map view is the Vulcan State Forest, where we're doing a lot of our drilling. There, Alex just put up all the drill holes we've drilled into. Most of these drill holes are drilling towards the northeast. Now, as Alec rotates this this image, we'll be able to see underneath and the actual resource model. Now, at the moment, this resource model is what we were calling the actual it's a mineralization zone interpretation, because at the moment a lot of it is due to visual estimates in drill core rather than assay results. And as the assay results come in, we'll then more tightly constrain the wireframes to produce the eventual resource model. What you can see there in some of these holes is the different colours of the different grades. So the green would be weak mineralisation, the orange moderate, the red is strong visual mineralisation. So at this stage, we're trying to keep the terms relative rather than being too prescriptive. Obviously, it's over these big intervals, it's very difficult to be very accurate with your interpretation in terms of the amount of chalcopyrite contained in the drill core. Can you turn on the resource model mineralisation interp? Yep. Spin that around. Thank you. Yep. So at the moment, this is the mineralisation interp, and you can see where Alex's cursor is now. That's the southeast end, and the northeast end where we've done a fair bit of drilling as well, and increase the mineralisation extent to the northwest is on the far side over there. Yep. Now, the most recent hole we drilled was hole 36, and it was in the southeast end. It was from the same colour as hole 24, and it was drilled underneath and along strike. So it extended the strike of the mineralisation, and it intersected about 205 metres of mineralisation from about 11 metres depth. So very shallow mineralisation, and then quite consistent. This seems to be very consistent with the hole that's just above it, which was hole 24. And then we've got further holes along strike there, which are 16, 13, 16, which assays have already been announced. And then there's hole 28, which is drilled quite fair bit deeper, which we announced visual estimates for just recently. Now, what we're going to do is, Alex,
sorry,
yep.
I'm just going to ask a question there. So south of hole 36, there's not any historical drilling. Is that, it looks like from the model there, it's completely open as we go further south. Is that right?
It is completely open. There is one old drill hole that I think was a Xtract Resources hole that did get some copper in it, and we used that hole in our interpretation to guess that the mineralisation is continuing to the west of that. So that's this where we were talking about the mineralisation is veering to the west. It's actually veering into a more north-south strike. So it's gone from a northwest-southeast orientation to a more north-south orientation.
Right. So that opens up a lot of room to continue to extend that good mineralisation more north-south.
It's completely open. Yep. And the only reason why we haven't drilled it yet is we've got to get permits to drill that area further along. Previously, with the geophysical interp and the way what we thought was happening was this area was connecting with the southeast anomaly area, and we'd planned drill holes to drill in between that area, but it doesn't look like that's the case. It looks like that it's more going directly to the south. And the last drill hole, got over 200 metres of mineralisation pretty much from surface. Now, between that last bit of the racecourse mineralisation that we've intersected and this southeast anomaly, there's a few anomalies throughout that area, IP anomalies we're talking about now, induced polarisation anomalies. We drilled a few of those targets over the last month or so, and we have intersected, as Colin and Jeremy alluded to, lots of alteration, saying that we're very close. lots of mineralisation, but lower sort of trace amounts to weak amounts, small intervals of weak amounts. But where there's smoke, there's fire. So we've been following along here. We've been slowly adapting our interp, drilling different zones. But the real key, and with the last hole and the success of the last hole, which was hole 35, and I don't know if Alec can show you the, can you put on the map that Pete made today with the geophysics? Or no, actually the cross section through 35, actually, sorry. Yeah, with the leg. So what happens in the racecourse mineralisation is the best copper is actually adjacent to the IP anomaly, not coincident. So we've drilled a lot of the IP anomalies, but not what we decided to target with this last hole was a zone where we could see the IP anomaly comes to surface and looks much more like a geological unit. See the zone through there? Mm-hmm. And that's, so the warm colours there are the restivity, so they're low restivity, so they usually mean there's sulfides there. It doesn't mean it's copper, it could be iron sulfides, but there's sulfides there. And then the contours, the colours, the very high, dark, warmer colours, they're very chargeable zones, which usually means the pyrite zone on the very outside of the mineralisation halo. So they sort of indicate you're in the system, but it's the restivity, which is usually the sphalerite, the pyrrhotite. And that pyrrhotite often is closely associated with the chalcopyrite. So the idea was that we saw this anomaly down in the south. It's a big anomaly, but the idea was that it's a mirror image to what we see at racecourse. So it looks like it's dipping towards the northeast rather than the southwest as it does at racecourse. And that if that's the case, then the copper mineralisation would be on the western side of the anomaly, adjacent to the restivity anomaly, and that's what we've hit. So for hole 35, visually we have mineralisation that could potentially be economic mineralisation from about 179 metres to about 608 metres. That's almost 430 metres of mineralisation of variable strength. The best mineralisation zone was at the shallowest point between 179 and essentially about 240. And then there's been another very high grade zone that's from about 554 to 608. And that also looks like it's a quite high grade zone. So this is potentially economic mineralisation 1.5 kilometres away from the nearest instance we've hit economic mineralisation. It's a new prospect, and we need to drill more holes into this area to understand its strike extent, understand its size. But so far, and the significant thicknesses we've intersected tend to indicate that it's quite significant.
And Alex, show us on surface on a surface view where the colour of that hole is relative to the racecourse, to give our viewers some perception just what a step out it is, and why it's become a standalone project.
Might be better to show the PDF image.
Here's what the topo.
So if you look at the IP data, the size of this anomaly associated with this mineralisation is as big, if not bigger, than the size of the response we see associated with the main racecourse mineralisation. So that gives us a lot of confidence that this system could really be quite substantial. And as Quinton said, lots of alteration in a couple of the previous holes, but now we've actually got the chalcopyrite part of it, and these two zones of mineralisation is very similar to what we get at racecourse as well. So yeah, it's incredibly exciting to be able to have this come through a really good piece of science and drilling, and now it warrants more holes just to see how big it is, in addition to all the tons that we've added to the main racecourse part of the resource as well, when we'll get a new resource for that out next year.
Let me just ask Colin, how relevant is the 2 million tons of contained copper goal? Is it something which is just irrelevant now, or I mean,
no? But I don't think you can talk relevant or irrelevant. I was on previous podcasts and have said that the conceptual open pit and the target of 2 million tons of contained copper, great. They're more or less coincident. So the question mark will be, as you know, we've done the rock mass calculation and that's looking significant. And as we go south, it's looking further significant. But of course, where it all ties together is when you put the grades, the rock mass, apply the cutoffs, and do you get 2 million ton or don't you? And we've got a very good chance, the way this southern zone's going, of getting the 2 million tons and a mine, which we could put to Anglo, should we wish. So in actual fact, if there was no southeastern discovery, let's call it a discovery, I think that we're probably there anyway, or if we're not there, we're extremely close. This southeastern discovery, if, as Quinton says, we get the strike, we get the continuation, and let's face it, it's a big mass. Why wouldn't you? You know, 2 million tons of contained copper might be the bottom end by far of things. Without.
No, but I mean, the question what I was really sort of angling at is that even if you thought there was much more than that, you're not at this stage. You're not allowed to say anything anyway.
Oh no, I'm not allowed. We're not allowed as a team to say anything.
So you can't. I mean, so that's the thing that we're living. I mean, that's something, because you know you produce all these updates, and I think it's something that I think maybe the market should be. I mean, it's worth addressing. You're producing all these updates, but of course, the only thing that you will never see in any of the updates is a sort of a running total of how much you think, how much contained copper you think there is there, because obviously for all the regulatory and other reasons. So it becomes like, you know, it could be any figure, let's say, on the upside or on the downside, but you know you're not allowed to say. So the sort of the theatrics of going on and just saying, you know, we've done this today, we're very pleased with this, that has to go on until there's a final summing up, which might be 6 months or a year down the line, when you know all will be revealed. I mean, that's the game, because I think that maybe some investors get frustrated that there's all these updates which are very, let's say, positive, and anybody looking at that map will think, like, you know, this looks like, you know, I mean, it's very, very orangey, let's say. You know, and it's not a small area. I mean, on that scale, there's, you know, there's a lot of tonnage there, just, you know, just by the scale of the whole project. I mean, I've seen the presentation. It's a very big area. So is that, but that,
well, you use the word dramatic, Zach. The drama, and it isn't drama, it's fortune really, is that if you've got the racecourse project, and that's where life started off, I think 71 million tons at 0.44. We started off with that, and now we did a conceptual pit, which allowed us to do, I think, 20 million tons for 9 years. We basically completely bowled over that conceptual pit at both ends and growing. So the strike extent is growing, the width probably stayed pretty constant. So really, we've given for a very good run for the money, the original prognosis of the Anglo agreement, if you like. Let's call it the Anglo agreement. But what we're saying to you now, and what Jeremy said to you, you know, this discovery is actually in a sophisticated country where geology is well known, where you're close to a major city of the world, and you know, you've got towns nearby. The team have discovered a new porphyry or porphyries. That's what we got to put into the pipe and smoke. That's the drama of today's podcast. Racecourse, basically, I think, will hit the 2 million, and will also be a mine. And if you look at rock mass only, you're probably talking 20 million tons for at least 20 years, but that's not where we're at anymore. You know, we talk about Cadia Ridgeway, we talk about North Parks. This basically is going into the Premier League, Zach. It's going into the Premier League. What the team is telling you today is that we've had a few smells, but I've still not got my picture of where this hole is. Let's have this surface picture. Just if you want to get warmed up, if you want to get dramatic, if you want to get a fuzzy feeling and not be a geologist or a scientist or have the remotest idea, I think the picture of showing where this discovery hole is relative to the racecourse ore body will whet everybody's appetite, irrespective of their actual layman or expert. Can we see that surface expression of where it actually sits relative to the cluster of boreholes we've drilled in the past?
Can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yep. So that's where 35 is situated, and it's 1.5 kilometers away from the last drill hole we drilled into the racecourse mineralization, which was that hole 36, which is here.
And then, of course, this one as well, we've hit at two horizons, but we will be testing now to see if this goes towards surface, won't we, Quinton?
Yeah, so the plan is to drill above this hole. This hole was drilled at 60 degrees, so we drilled the next one at 50. But the next hole in this area is in a long strike hole that we've planned, which is 200 meters to the south, which is this purple dot down here, to see if we can get the strike extent and you know, to see what happens to the mineralization grade and thickness as we go along strike.
So to put this in context, I mean, when we started the drill program, the first phase 1 drill program, which was started last year, we had a 71 million ton 0.44 copper equivalent grades resource. Now, when we talk about 2 million tons of contained copper, so 2 million tons of contained copper requires a resource of about 450 million tons at 0.4 for copper equivalent. So, you know, if we get up to 2 million tons of contained copper, we would have taken the resource from 71 million tons up over 400 million tons, which would be, you know, if we're successful in doing that, just on the racecourse part of the resource alone, that'll be a huge success, to be able to take it from 71 million tons up to over in excess of 400 million tons. And so we will go through the process of finishing off the drill program. We have to get all the assays back, as Colin said. You then have to put those into the model to work out the contained copper. So that'll be happening early next year. And then on top of that, now we have this added dimension of Ascot, the new discovery. How big is it? How thick is it? You know, how good are the grades going to be? Some of the questions that we already know from racecourse, because it's had a lot more drilling, you know, but by what Xtract's done, but the historical data as well. Whereas at Ascot, we don't have that historical data. You know, at racecourse, we had quite a lot of information to go on to help us guide the drilling and help us with our understanding. And that's one of the reasons we've been so successful there at growing the size of the mineralization there. But when you go into a completely new discovery, this thing hasn't been drilled before. There's no holes into it apart from, you know, what our team's been able to drill. So, you know, that opens up the scope of this thing. We don't know how much further south it's going to go or how thick it's going to go. We build our knowledge as we go with the drilling. So it's incredibly exciting to be able to be a part of that, and for us now to say, well, how big is Ascot going to be? I mean, we can look at that image and we can look at the geophysics and go, well, you know, the IP response associated with that mineralization is pretty big if you compare that to the response over racecourse. So let's get into it and really find out how big this thing is, and that'll just add on to what we know from racecourse. So the key thing, I think, is we've just opened up a huge amount of upside, and we've shown that there is a cluster of porphyries here, which is similar to what we know from Cadia and North Parks, and that just adds a completely new dimension to the project.
Colin Bird, Quinton Hills, Alec Kubera, and Jeremy Reed, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Zach. Thank you for giving us the opportunity, and well done, everybody.